Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is the Our Turf Football Podcast. I am Dayna. This is Lisa, and it's just the two of us tonight, you guys. It's just the two of us. Everyone else is busy or on vacation or working. And you know what? We're okay with that because I don't know how we would fit all this in if there were more opinions than just the two of us for sure. Oh my gosh,
Wow.
Lisa, it was a wild weekend. We're going to get into all of it. But first, of course, we
Mhm.
want our sponsors, Donkey's Cheesesteaks. They are have 3 locations in New Jersey, and they've been our sponsor for 3 years. And we're so excited that they decided to do it again. So Medford, Mount Holly, and Camden is where you can find their stores.
Mhm.
However, as we say every week, you do not have to be in New Jersey to enjoy their delicious food. Go to goldbelly.com, look up Donkey's Cheesesteaks, and it can be sent right to your house. So huge thanks to them for sponsoring us again. Okay. I don't even know where to start. Like,
I don't even know.
it was so funny. I think it was it Graham? Somebody said, "Oh my God, NFL, you're drunk. Go home." Like, it was just that kind of a weekend. It was horrid weather on the East Coast. It was piss and rain all over those games, all over the ball. Oh my God, it was crazy. And then you have, it started off Thursday night football with the Chiefs and
Yep.
the Lions. And then it just went straight through. There were some fantastic games. I'm sure you're going to tell us all about that Miami Chargers game. It was such a good game, but there was a lot of really bad football that was on this weekend. So let's start first, Lisa. I want to know. Obviously, the big news is that Joe Burrow got 3 points in fantasy football. No, I'm just kidding. That is not the big news this week.
Another show.
That's another show. It's so frustrating. Anyway, the big news, obviously, Aaron Rodgers. 4 plays into his big debut with the Jets, goes down, torn Achilles. Lisa, we have heard every excuse that he doesn't like the way they were calling the plays and he knew it would be bad. The turf was terrible. It was the line's fault, blah, blah, blah. I want to know your thoughts because my thought is he's 39 years old.
My thought was the same as yours. When I figured, and I think we talked about it on the show, and I think actually you're the one that said you would just be surprised if he made it the whole season. Or like we kind of thought maybe he'd just get roughed up a game, maybe miss another game, kind of like the last couple of years of him getting injured. He has been injured the last couple of years, you guys. And when you look at Achilles tendons and how they happen, sometimes they happen with non-contacts. I mean, Dan Marino went down. He got up, took a couple steps, went right down. First thing everybody went after was, I've seen some of the players come out the turf and stuff like that. We've been dealing with turf issues for how many years now?
Right.
With, the Eagles turf, them canceling the Hall of Fame game one year because of all the field issues and stuff like that. I think every field has issues. The fact that the turf doesn't give and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going back to his age. I just think that it's disappointing for Jets fans because it was such a hype. It was such a hype to see exactly how they would respond. But, in hindsight, the team responded great. It ended up being a pretty good, entertaining game.
It did.
So it'd just be interesting now to see where the talk goes from here. Is he finished? Is he done? Is he going to try to come back? I think, honestly, from what I'm hearing today, is I think a lot of people think he's just done. I think this was his one and done, that he wanted to come back. Because if you remember, before he started, he said before he went into his hole, he was going to retire. He was thinking about that was
in his hole. I just got that in his cave somewhere,
wherever. And then he emerges halfway from his hole and said that he wanted to do one more year. So if indeed he wants to do one more year, regardless of whether he got hurt or not, then he would be done. Right. Let's face it, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. I don't think there's any debate about that.
Nothing to prove at all.
So I don't, he'll go down as one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history with the Green Bay Packers. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think he has any shame of it. I don't think he has anything to prove. So I would probably think this is it. I would, call this a career. But like I said, I'm not Aaron Rodgers. It's a long, off season to see where his mindset is next year.
A couple comments. Look, it's our old friend Darcy. We haven't seen you forever, Darcy.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you so much for joining us. So good to see you.
Buddy.
Then Graham says, I don't see him being done. He won't want his legacy to finish this way. I think he'll come back. I agree with the legacy part because he's pissed. There was so much hype that was happening around the Jets, and he was going to save the franchise, even though they have all these fantastic, talented players on their team. There was all this going on. And he says, oh, I just felt so invested in this team, which is interesting to me. You've been there like 6 months. I don't even know how long, right? But interestingly enough, I'm not sure his ego would tolerate going down with an injury. I think if nothing else, he would want to finish the season. But at the same time, those
could he finish the season though?
Keep adding up. Exactly. They just keep adding up. And so I wonder if at some point he's like, this isn't worth it. The rehab back and the getting back, is that going to be worth it? I don't think we're going to know. I guarantee you it's going to be like a LeBron James thing when he went to Miami. It's going to take 4 years for us to hear, and then it'll be right before training camp, I'm coming back. And so, or he'll retire and unretire like Brady does. But I do think that it's a big blow to Jets fans. I get their complete and total sadness in that. But Lisa, you said that game ended up being very entertaining last night. That, the punt that was brought back for a touchdown to win it, that's an undrafted rookie that did that, and I love those storylines. You know how much I love those storylines. Right. And Zach Wilson didn't look terrible, no matter what Peyton Manning said. It wasn't horrible.
Did he not even know he was on the team anymore? I think that was people were laughing. They still don't know whether he was joking or whether he was serious.
I don't think he thought. God love Peyton Manning. But so it's interesting. But let's talk about the flip side of that game really quick, shall we? The Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen. That was not pretty. That was not pretty at all. Lisa, what happened there?
4 turnovers. I mean, you can't. Know. That's insane. If you have a team that says I turned the ball over 4 times and won the game, that says a lot about the opponent that you played. But you didn't play a team that's going to lay down. You played a division team, and we all know about divisions. Records go out the door. This is individual games. They know each other. They looked off. Buffalo looked off all night long to me. Josh Allen looked off. And he shouldered a lot of the blame today. Watching him in his pressers, I just don't know. He just looked off. You could just see the whole momentum of the Buffalo Bills. Just go. It's just, the play calling was questionable to me. They
were flat, Lisa. They were flat. They were. How can you be flat in a division? Well, I don't know. They can ask Seattle Seahawks why they were flat in a divisional game. But, it's like, seriously, there wasn't that Bills spark that you normally get out of them.
I mean, this is a team that 85% of the nation thinks is going to the Super Bowl. I mean, before this game they are on everybody's radar to be the AFC champs, to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl.
Right.
That was far from a Super Bowl team that we watched last night.
Yeah, it was weird. And I'm not an overreactor in week 1. Lisa, we have said for 10, 12 years that we've been doing this show now that, you never know who a team really is till week 4 to 6. I mean, it's just the truth. And people got real irritated with me saying it after the Seahawks game, but it's just true. You have no idea, right? We have no idea. We're going to talk about Matt Stafford. We're going to talk about some of those other teams that we might have gotten wrong, but we don't know yet. And so I think it's really interesting that so many fans were panicking at that point. But one thing I think, Lisa, you hit it on the head. It was a divisional game. And that game would have been way out of control had Aaron Rodgers been playing the whole time, And so for them to just win it, and that was just a fantastic run back for that, for him. So I don't know. I think it's, I think that it is take a breath, but there is something real off with Josh Allen. So we got to fix that. Talking about off. Let's talk about Joe Burrow for a minute, shall we? That game. Let me just tell you this. The Bills game and the Cincinnati game made the Chiefs fans feel much better about their Thursday night game.
Yes.
that soothed those wounds just a little bit. But the Bengals played the Browns, which Joe Burrow has he ever won or only won one time something in Cleveland? Yeah. Huge struggles there. It was 24-3. Cincinnati scored not a touchdown, 3 points in that game. Joe Burrow, 82 yards. 82 yards for Joe Burrow. Is he still injured?
He has to be, right?
He has to be.
You have to. If you're a Bengals fan, you're kind of almost hoping he kind of is a little bit and come out and say that, because then you have a lot of money you're getting ready to eat for a quarterback that you benched after signing that huge contract. So once again, first game, is it still bothering him? I just wish he would come out and say it.
Yeah.
Like, this is, he was injured, but it was like, benched. That's all you saw on big highlights. But hey, kudos to the Browns.
Yeah.
They had a great game plan coming in to shut him down. They did it. Like I said, whether he's injured or not, we're still kind of waiting to see if that's the word there. But the Browns put it together. I think they're going to be a team to be scrappy with in that division.
Well, let me put it this way. So, not everyone in the NFL world wants Deshaun Watson to do well. Let's just be real honest about that. His game was okay. 16 of 29, 154 yards.
Browns fans are going to take that, Dayna. Brown fans are going to take being okay, because they're every other quarterback they've had has not been okay.
You're 100% correct. Absolutely.
They're okay with being okay.
Yeah. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. It was an interesting night for them too, but those two teams play the hell out of each other. They just do. And so then if you have an injured Joe Burrow, that'll be interesting to see what happens. Ruined my fantasy football game. Ruined it. Thank you, Joe Burrow. But my backup is Geno, so that probably wouldn't have helped so much. But anyway, so we but that was an interesting game. But again, a divisional game. There was a lot of divisional games, obviously, to open it up, right?
Yep.
How do we feel about opening up with these divisional games? Do you like it? Do you think they should give them non-divisional, kind of work them into it a little bit?
No, to me, it reminds me of college football, because everybody was laughing about, and I'm going to use my Hurricanes, because the last couple of years we have opened up with powerhouses and absolutely got smacked around, which the confidence, that's your first game coming out of the gate. You have freshmen that are on the team, and I love it, because it's like you start off with a powerhouse and you get smacked, and you have to gain the confidence back and stuff like that. It's so nice to start with a nice easy team that you can beat, gain the confidence. The NFL doesn't want that. They want you to go at it right away, and that proved beautifully last year, right? Because we're ending with a lot of divisional games. Miami has Buffalo. Our last game's against Buffalo, so I think they like the start of it. They like the end of it. I think it's very entertaining for fans, because they got to go after it, and because you want to get that one leg up, because that one game could matter down the stretch.
Oh, it could matter huge. December. So couple comments from our chat. Graham says the Bengals have only won 2 of the last 11 games in the Battle of Ohio. He's right. And then Darcy says Burrow is 1-5 versus Cleveland. The win came last December. Though this was definitely the worst game of the 6. Absolutely. Again, I'm not trying to make an excuse for Joe Burrow. I just am wondering if he is still a little injured for sure. So yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on how the next few weeks go. Okay. Another interesting game. Lisa, there was all this hype. The Steelers were going to shock the world.
Dude,
they were going to come out. They didn't even play a division game. They were going to come out and shock the world. Kenny Pickett was the next coming. They were so excited. They got smacked by the San Francisco 49ers, 30-7. This game was almost unwatchable.
Sophomore slump?
Maybe. Wait, I thought it was supposed to be sophomore jump, not sophomore slump.
No, I think we went sophomore slump. But then again, we are talking about the team that I think is going to go to the Super Bowl. So, because right. So, I mean, that defense, we talked about Bosa. We talked about that defense. Yes. I'm just kind of hoping this is one of those, Pittsburgh's slow coming out of the gate, and we'll kind of figure it out. But they looked terrible. They did. That was just, it's one of those games you probably just want to, crawl back into your hole.
Yeah, you want to just be like, that didn't happen. Let's move on to the next one. So it's interesting. So Brock Purdy looked good. Still those short passes. The guy just doesn't have an arm. Like for the big ones, that's okay. But he got the job done. 19 of 29, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns. Steelers, Kenny Pickett, not a terrible day. 31 of 46. That's a lot of passes. Holy cow. 232 yards, 1 touchdown, the 2 interceptions. Lisa, again, these interceptions are just killing the drives of this team. But he tried to put it on his back and make it happen. The rest of the team was not clicking. So I wonder now, Mike Tomlin, one of our favorite coaches, he's got to be out there just wondering what is going to go. What do I need to do right now? What do they need to do?
Well, I think with that, you got to go back to the drawing board with Kenny Pickett and kind of get him calmed down. He wasn't terrible, but you always go by how your team bounces back. So week 2 is going to be huge for them. So they've got to have a big game this season, the next game, to bounce back.
Yeah, they have to. So Graham is hilarious. Pittsburgh weren't just slow out the gate. They couldn't even get the gate open. So true. They couldn't get the gate open.
And Mike Tomlin will tell you, and you watched his post game. Yep. You know, he's one of these guys he'll flat out tell you. And Graham's absolutely right. I don't think they were good on any aspect of the ball. They failed on every single aspect of the ball. Special teams, defense, offense.
Yeah. So another game, really quick, I want to talk about is the Packers and the Bears. The Bears cannot shake the Packers. They can't. They just cannot shake the Packers at all. Packers 38, Bears 20. That game, I think. It was kind of Jordan Love's coming out party. And
I like him.
I know you do. You always have. And I think that maybe that Green Bay fans took a huge, huge, sigh of relief on that one. Jordan Love, 15 for 27, 245 yards, 3 touchdowns. The kids looked great. It was so good. It was a lot of fun to watch. On the other hand, however, my question is this: how long do we give Justin Fields?
We don't.
24, 37, 216 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Not horrible numbers, but
something's amiss. Something's amiss with this kid. I don't know whether it's offensive coordinators. I don't know if it's just so many changes going on. But something's just missing. It's like that 8-cylinder engine with 1 cylinder. Something's, he has flashes. Yeah, he has flashes of he's good, but then some of the plays come on, you're how many years in this now? I think Bears fans should be concerned. That's what I'm going to tell you guys. I think Bear fans should be concerned. I just don't know if he's it for the Bears.
Yeah, I don't know. But again, week 1, we're going to hope. But that's my point for this is how long do you keep that hope? How long do you keep, running?
You got one more year of it because obviously, so, you'll have to make your decisions. And like I said, it's one game. You could bounce back, have a beautiful game next. Who knows? Like I said, but this to me is his make it or break it year. I think a lot of fans will agree with me there. Yes, game 1, but I'm going to put that concern.
Yeah. Put the asterisks there. We got to watch and see what happens there. Absolutely. Another disastrous game. Then we're going to talk about some middle of the road games, and then we're going to talk about the really good game Lisa wants to talk about. So let's go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room. 40-0. I have not seen a divisional game like that. Dallas Cowboys absolutely murdered and dismembered the New York Giants in New York in a horrid rainstorm. It was such a disaster. But I'm going to say this, Lisa, and I said this to you before the show. That was all the defense. The defense scored twice. Yeah. They had turnover after turnover, a blocked punt, all of these amazing defense. Dak looked okay. I don't think that is, something that you could write home about when you're talking about Dak and you're talking about, his big comeback as they, were trying to pass it off as. So he had 13 of 24, 143 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, but they brought in Cooper Rush at the end. So it's like, you cannot give the offense the game ball in this game.
You got to give the weather the game ball.
kind of that Saquon Barkley interception was nothing but rain. That's when he hit him, that ball popped out like a grease pig. It was crazy.
But what's an interesting fact is Cooper Rush came into the game. Who didn't come out of the game? Their quarterback that they just paid all that money to. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's hit this.
Yep.
The fourth quarter, you're not coming back from that. I'm sorry. Come on. But you just paid this quarterback all this money. Why not take him out? I mean, right? Obviously, you believed in this guy enough to give him all that money. Mm-hmm. The game's out of hand. It's raining.
Out of
injury.
Hand.
Out of let's talk about the injuries. Okay, yeah, you got a good chance in this rainstorm of getting this kid hurt.
Yep.
Did he bench him? Nope. Kept him in the whole game.
Yeah.
Which I was shocked. And I mean, Twitter was blowing up. The commentators were like, what is going on in New York? Mm-hmm. Why is he in? Dayna, was it a punishment? Is it like, did I blame you? So you're going to stay out here?
Yeah.
It is crazy for me. Burrows, well, let's go on the hindsight of saying, yep, we're going to take care of him. This isn't your game. Obviously, you're off. Take a seat. Let's regroup. We paid you all that money. Don't want to get you too hurt anymore if you are hurt. But Daniel Jones, it was like they just threw him to the wolves. It's like,
I don't know if it was that. I got the impression that it was like, this is your team, fix it. This is your team. What are you going to do to fix it? And at that point, we know he couldn't fix it. But maybe that was like, no, you're going to finish what you start. I don't know. I don't feel like Brian Daboll's that type of coach, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but God, that's a lot of money.
Maybe he didn't want to come out. Maybe he was like, no, I am staying in. Maybe we need to give Daniel Jones some credit. And he was like, absolutely not. I'm going to finish this, And so that could be it too. It was really, really interesting. There was a lot of people calling for him to sit, though. Absolutely. Lisa, I want to get back to some of these great comments we've had. So we had Graham's like, the good news in Chicago looked as good as last year. The bad news is they were terrible last year. It's so true. Let's see. We have about Chicago. RMC says change of scenery might help Justin Fields. I kind of agree. I always go back. Look what it did for Jared Goff. So I agree. It is early as one game is not a complete season. The Bears are in real disarray and need to blow it up. I kind of agree. They kind of dipped their toe in a rebuild, but they haven't gone all the way. Darcy then is like, Dak was okay, but the game was over in the second quarter. I still see Daniel Jones as a mid. He totally is. And the Giants overachieved this year.
We all do.
We thought it was insane when they paid him that money.
I did too.
Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah, and then Graham throws out there, I thought Joe Judge was back as head coach of the Giants. That's kind of funny. It's funny. Nice job. But yeah, I think that it was really interesting to see how it will be interesting to see how the Giants respond. Mm-hmm. That's embarrassing.
Long season.
It is, but that's embarrassing, Lisa. I think that needs to. I hope they had a Tell the Truth Monday and they were real blunt about the truth.
Yes.
I think they
back to work Monday. I think you need to dip some balls in a lot of buckets of water.
Yeah, and just learn how to catch them. That's right. Mm-hmm. Okay, couple of other games that maybe weren't quite in so much disarray. The Eagles and the Patriots. The Eagles won. 25-20. Again, I think that was a surprise. I think a lot of people thought the Eagles would probably blow them out. But to be honest with you, it felt like a week one game. You know what I mean? Everyone's still kind of getting their footing. So that wasn't so terrible. The Seahawks and the Rams, it started out as, a really good back and forth match. And then Seattle lost 2 tackles and their center for a minute. And then he was right back in again. And lost their entire offensive line, basically. And it turned into a disaster for Seattle. And so the Rams end up winning that one 30-13. The interesting thing
that score,
it's a weird score, isn't it?
Right? It almost makes it sound like they got beat the whole game, which it wasn't. Right?
It was just at the end. It was after the half. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Seahawks were ahead at halftime, and then their line just completely fell apart. Not making an excuse, just what happened. I think, though, interestingly, that next week we need to talk about Matt Stafford, and because I want to see. He looked great in this game. Was that the Seattle defense? Could very well be. But at the same time, he looked like Matt Stafford from a few years ago in this game.
Well,
he looked healthy. He looked sharp. And so I can't wait. The Rams play San Francisco next week. So I want to see how that happens. And they'll do it without Cooper Kupp. So it'll be interesting. Although that rookie, damn, he was really good.
He's good.
A couple of other kind of middle of the road games. The Raiders and the Broncos also felt like a division week 1 game. It was just kind of there. I thought Jimmy Garoppolo looked pretty good for the Raiders, though.
But Jimmy's good. I mean, Jimmy's not a bad quarterback. Let's not get that. I mean, he just struggles when the games matter. Those were the biggest knocks on him, is when you're in those late December games and stuff.
Well,
I don't think Jimmy was ever I don't think Jimmy ever was a bad quarterback.
Right.
So I think that, he's, like I said, I think, and we even said this, Jimmy's going to win them some games. I just think the Broncos they're just throwing the whole kitchen sinks in. I mean, some of the coaching decisions, like onside kicks, and that hurts you. Field position hurts.
Right. What is Sean Payton doing? Like,
he's just, I think that's all he's got right now. I'm going to be honest, but I think it's all he's got right now is to try some of these little gimmick things to try to keep him in the game and stuff till he can get some guys set that he wants to bring in. But when you look at the score, it's like, oh, wow, was that a good game?
No, it was.
I looked at the highlights. It wasn't.
No, it was just a kind of a boring week 1 game. The funny thing is, everyone's like, can Russell Wilson score more than 16 points? Because they seem to be struggling with that.
Weapons.
But let me tell you, their injuries, the Broncos' injuries, are adding up so fast again already this season. I mean, it's just crazy. Graham in the comments says, who'd have thought the Raiders are the only 1-0 team in the AFC West? That is the shocking thing. You know what I mean? Now, I always say the Chargers are the best team right now, even though they lost, because that game was so good. But it was, but yeah, it's surprising, especially with the Chiefs losing to. And let's talk about let's just dip our toe in that Chiefs game for a minute. The minute they said Travis Kelce was out, remember I told you.
You did.
I said I took it down by 1, and you're like, I'm like, but it's the guy. And if this did not prove that, I don't know what would have. Now, yes, Chris Jones was out too. Their defense, though, wasn't really the problem. I mean, they're going to be so much better now that he's going to come back. But the fact that they don't have a number 1 wide receiver, their number 1 wide receiver is Travis Kelce, but he also has to be your tight end. They don't have anyone else except for their run game. And I think that this proved that it takes one player, that even if it's not the quarterback, and it dooms your team. Yes, it was a 21-20 game. I mean, it was, it wasn't like it was some huge blowout, but the Chiefs, Lisa, did not look like the Chiefs. And we were talking about it during the game.
Nobody could hold on to the ball. How many drop passes did Mahomes have? I mean, and some of these passes were on 3rd down that would have moved the chains. And so I think that it was, like you said, they were missing Kelce. They were missing those hands.
Yeah.
It just felt like they put so much pressure on those other guys because he was spreading the ball around, just nobody could hold on to it.
They're just not the guy.
A lot of drops that hurt him. And that's football. I mean, it's a game of inches and seconds. And, we've seen guys where the ball hits them and it just pops out. And then we've seen these one-handed catches. It's crazy. But that was ridiculous on how they couldn't hold on to the ball.
Right.
Chris Jones, I'm sorry. He's not their whole defense. Their secondary's in trouble. I'm sorry. You can sit there and, I got pounded on Twitter because I'm like, well, even with Chris Jones, they're going to be me. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Their secondary needs some help.
Right. It does. Absolutely. Now I want to address this comment. So Graham says it didn't help that Tony couldn't catch anything. I want to say this. Andy Reid owns that. In his presser this week, he said, we rushed him back. We pushed to get him back, especially after Kelce's injury. So he is taking a huge bit of ownership of that. And I think that that's fair. Now, Tony running his mouth afterwards, this sure as hell didn't help. But I just think that Andy Reid now is like, okay, I think it was a little bit of what I call Kelce panic. Oh my God, where's the Kelce? We don't have a Kelce. And so I think they panicked just a little bit with that. But kudos to the Lions. That fan base just is exploding.
Dan Campbell, don't ever change.
I love him.
Don't ever change.
I love him. The fake punt. Oh, makes me so happy.
Dude, that man has them. It's like I said, there's a lot of coaches this year that are just doing that. I mean, they're just doing these, certainly they're not holding back. There's no conservative. There's, like I said, just don't ever change.
I love it.
He's a fun coach to watch.
I love him. I absolutely do. All right. Going back to the kind of middle of the road games, we have the Cardinals and Commanders. two equal teams, 20-16. The Commanders won over the Cardinals. That was a tough one to even watch the highlights of. But yep, so we're at there. All right. So the rest of the games, Titans and Saints, also felt like a tough divisional game. Titans, the Saints won 16, Titans 15. It might change my prediction on the Titans winning that division. I thought it would settle in, take a little longer for the Saints to settle in. But Derek Carr looked good. Like
I think he's that was a good fought match. I think that was two teams that are fairly even on the even to me. These are two teams that are very similar to me.
Yeah.
These are two teams that are just right there that, and just went at it. And, Carr has something to prove. We said that he's out on a mission. Yeah. Titans didn't look god awful.
Yeah, it really comes down.
Struggled.
Yeah. But, 63 yards is all he got. Ryan Tannehill, 16 for 34, only 198 yards, but the 3 interceptions out of him.
Tanny kill.
That was a little bit. But Derek Carr, 23 of 33, 305 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And so like I said, it's not like Derek Carr looked good. But these teams fought. They really kind of went, to the wire on that one, which is great. All right. We could also talk about the Bucs and the Vikings, 20-17. Baker Mayfield, what the hell? I was a little surprised at this game, except for my Justin Jeffrey. He had
he still rocks, right? That kid's
phenomenal. Love him. But Baker Mayfield, 21 of 34, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Still has Mike Evans.
Terrible. Right.
Still has Mike Evans. Mike Evans still one of the best quarterbacks out, wide receivers. So him and Jefferson.
Yeah.
To me, that game, I don't think Kurt had a bad game. Kurt couldn't get rid of the ball fast enough.
344 yards. He had a great game.
That offensive line for the Vikings is awful. I'm sorry, guys. That was the whole thing. He was running for his life, and thank God he had Jefferson because that's when he was just throwing the ball up because he had no time to throw that ball.
Absolutely.
That line is in trouble.
Justin Jefferson, 9 receptions, 150 yards. Like, it's just great. But Alexander Mattinson, their new number 1 running back, too, 11 carries, 34 yards.
They shore that lineup. They're going to be a good team. You shore that Vikings lineup, they're going to be right there.
Kirk Cousins, 33 of 44, 344 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Yeah, that game was it was interesting. It was a battle for sure. So let me see. We have a couple comments I'm going to get caught up on here. Darcy says, Howell had some good and bad O-line, still a problem with Washington. Didn't like that Arizona deliberately were trying to injure Howell. We can't say that. Darcy, you need to add the word allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah. It says at least twice in the game he saw that. Yeah. And then we also have RMC. It says it's stunning that both Cleveland and Detroit won while Cincy and Pittsburgh lost. When was the last time the Browns and the Lions both started 1-0? That's a really good question.
That's a
fair
It's
question.
one game. I'm pretty sure it's happened before. Because it's right.
I'm sure it has. Yeah. 1 weekend. All right, Lisa.
Let's do it.
The most impressive game of the week. Dolphins, Chargers, 2 teams that were expected to do so well this year, and they did. Dolphins won 36-34. My one question for you in your recap of this game is, did the defense get on the field at all? I'm just sure. Was there any defense in this game at all?
Who cares? Who cares about defense? What is that even a question?
It's a question.
Who cares about defenses? No, that was your Herbert Tua game
good.
right there. That and they're always going to be compared to each other. Tua looks healthy. Like I said, the kid a ball if you can keep him healthy. He puts the ball right where his 2 red zone interceptions, had some issues with the snaps. That's got to get that fixed. But that's where your boy, your hipster homebrewer comes in. You can see that he was very, got to get that fixed. You can even, if you read lips, same thing. Got to get that fixed. Tyreek, absolutely fire.
215 yards.
He said he wants over 2,000 yards. He said he
wants the record.
He's on pace for 3,000 something right now if he stays. So, Mostert, the running game is good. Some good calls. I mean, he 4th down, 4th and 7, boom, pulled the trigger, got it. So that's again, Mike always has been that way. He's a very aggressive coach. He's got that kind of Dan Campbell mentality about them. Let's just, go for it. This game, to me, these teams are so good together playing that you're looking at, if you take one play out of this game, it's going to be 2 seconds left before we go to the halftime. Instead of, like you said, just going into halftime, being satisfied where you are. Mike McDaniel trusted them, put it down the field, boom, pass interference with 2 seconds left, 3 points. That's the deciding factor in the game.
That's
it just
the game.
Goes to show that's your game right there. Because that's a bonehead play. It was an easy call. I mean, you just shove the receiver right to the ground, boom. Jason Sanders comes in, kicks a field goal with 2 seconds left. We go to the half. That's your deciding factor in your game.
Absolutely. And again, like I said, Tyreek Hill, it's like, oh, that had to hurt those Chiefs fans. They could have probably really used him this week. Yeah. But again, Justin Herbert also looked good. 23 of 33, 228 yards. Austin Eckler, 117 yards rushing.
It was a great game.
Yes. Great game. They had Joshua Kelly, 91 yards rushing. Like, it was so good. Keenan Allen, 76 yards on 6 targets. So here's the thing. Austin Eckler, 47 yards pass and catching too. So it's like these teams back, forth. It was just so good.
I love that.
That's, well, I don't mind a good, 10-17 game. I like those low score ones too. But this one, it was just a chess match. It really, really was. It was very, very impressive. Oh, look at Darcy did for us. Last time Cleveland Detroit started at 1-0 was in 2004.
Okay. Dang, that far.
Wow. Thank you so much. Graham says, Graham is another resident Dolphins fan. He says our defense showed up in the last series.
Let me comment about this. Let me just go ahead and comment on the Dolphins defense with Vic Fangio. Fangio is not a big blitzing guy. Okay. It's known. Everybody knows him. He's old school. It's a lot of, one-on-one coverages, single high safeties. I mean, but man, when he dials it up, he dialed it up 3 straight times, and bam, it was impressive. And we're hurt. I mean, when you look at our injury list, it would look like a mass unit compared to the Chargers. Once again, we're just always depleted. We lost Ramsey. So it's going to be fun to watch him with this defense this year. I think Graham will agree. It's frustrating as hell sometimes watching this defense, because it's like, why are we only rushing 4 people? But man, when you stack the 8, 9, bring the safeties and on blitzes, Fangio, it was a great game plan that last series on our defense. You have to give it to Fangio on that. He dialed it up beautifully. Muted.
I am muted. Sorry. I know we're running a little bit long, you guys, but we do want to hit on these rookie quarterbacks. Yes. Obviously, a lot of eyes were on them. And of the 3 that started, they did not win their games. But there was a lot of good that came out of these games for them. A lot that the fan bases maybe should be a little bit excited about. Lisa, what did you see? Because I know how much you love these rookies.
Yes.
What did you see when you watched their games this week?
I'll start off with Anthony Richardson, since you kind of liked him.
I love that kid.
You did. I loved the game plan the Colts offensive coordinators had for him. They had him do some easy rollouts. They had some nice passes for him, some easy passes. They didn't expect a lot from him or put a lot on this kid's shoulders. You saw a lot of what this kid needs. He needs snaps. I'm going to tell you right now, this is what this kid needs.
Time.
And that's why I told you, the speed of this game and the way you have to go through your progressive reads, that is a knock on the kid. He's got to get his mind caught up to the game.
Right.
You're not going to do that with a clipboard in your hand. You're going to do that out on the field where you can learn it and get it. I like the way they game planned for him. I think he ended up, I got his stats right here. He is 24 for 37, 223 pass yards, 2 total touchdowns, 1 interception. I think he ran for 1 touchdown.
He did, yes.
He did, and just 1 interception. So I loved what the Colts did with him, to be honest with you. And Jonathan Taylor, if they had Jonathan Taylor, that would take a lot of pressure off. So I don't know what's going on still there. I mean, Ian came out and said, he could pass a physical. They're going to trade talks. They're going to continue again. they're softening up on their demands. It is so bizarre. I mean, just how
there's more underlying there than we know.
The second, I have him number 1 to me. I thought he had the best performance. Coming second is CJ Stroud. I thought Stroud had some good, even though we always got to love the stat, that Brett Favre stat, his first NFL pass went to himself for 1 yard. But you can see the struggles. I mean, you're gonna have to take your lumps with him. Once again, the kid's got to take snaps, got to get mentally prepared for the game. 28 for 44, 242 passes, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, obviously. But everybody I've talked to in that organization, and one guy that I knew from the Dolphins that went there, I talked to him some. They loved it. They're excited about him. Yep, they're excited about him. And I think one of those guys is going to get a win next week because they play each other. I think Houston and the Colts play each other next week. The one guy that kind of struggled was Bryce Young, but I think it's because he put so much pressure on himself that he just wanted to do so much better. So I think he was disappointed more in himself, where Frank Reich was, and he wasn't panicking. He was just like, he's young, he's a rookie, he's got to learn the process. Frank was very good with him. I thought I wish they would have done a little bit better with him on some of the calls. But then again, this whole Panther organization, this whole team needs to gel together and stuff like that. So Bryce Young,
so many new,
so many new. So it's going to take them a little process. 20 for 38, 146 pass yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Once again, you listen to Bryce's post game; he puts a lot of that on himself, just trying to. I think he just put too much pressure on himself. I think once he just knows it's a learning process, relaxes, gets some confidence into him, I think they are good. I didn't hear anything solidly like, oh my God, this guy, like I said, it's just one game, but it's one game in a rookie's, career. So,
in his first game. Feel bad for him though, since his ball, Hayden Hurst threw his first touchdown up into the stands. Anyway, I hope that fan gave him back. But the other thing with this too, I've read this, I haven't watched each of these games completely, but what I read is no one really felt any panic coming out of these kids. And you do with rookie quarterbacks sometimes. I mean, as much as we love Sunshine down there with the Jacksonville Jaguars, his first season, granted, it was a disaster coaching-wise. We understand that. But he looked panicked in some of those games. And these guys didn't, especially Anthony Richardson. The kid is a cucumber, man.
Yeah, I love what the Colts did with him. I think talking to some people up there, reading some of the analysts, what they said about him, they did great by him. Like I said, just letting him slowly process, get his mind up with the game. So to me, I think he had one of the better games, but I think it's because of coaching. I think I think Bryce just tried to put stuff on him, and CJ Stroud. It's going to be interesting to see them go at it next week.
I'm excited about that.
So one of them's going to get a win.
So we talk about the other teams in those games. So the Panthers played the Falcons. They lost 10-24. The Falcons look a lot better than some people thought they would. And so that'll be interesting to see how they progress throughout the season. The Texans got the unlucky draw, and CJ Stroud got the unlucky draw of the Ravens. But let me tell you, this game was not quite what I thought it was going to be. It seemed like maybe Lamar was struggling a bit. No touchdowns, 7 for 22.
What was the score of that game?
That was 9-25. So the Ravens beat them 25-9. So yeah. So that one, he did have
first time in NFL history. First time in NFL history that was ever a score in a football game.
Oh, it was a scoregami?
It's never been.
That's awesome. Love that. Love it. Love it. Love it. So, yep. So that was an interesting game too. The Ravens, that felt like a slow start. I'm sure that they will get much better. I wouldn't be too worried about that. And then the Colts played the Jaguars, who are expected to be a pretty to not very good team this year. They lost. Jaguars won 31-21 from the Colts. And that one was interesting too. Sunshine looked pretty good in that one. I mean, and that's, by the way, that's what we call Trevor Lawrence, everybody. We call Sunshine. But 24-32, 241 yards, 2 touchdowns. They did have an interception. So those games were good, but I think they were good games. I think rookies kind of shined there for sure. So, all right, Lisa, I'm telling you, this week just felt weird. Sometimes it felt just icky. There was a lot of injuries this week, which is just other than just Aaron Rodgers. We had a lot. Right. The Ravens lost Dobbins, which is just huge for that team. So yeah, there was a lot that went on.
So that's going to ramp up trade talk. It's going to ramp up some train talk, right?
I'm sure. There's going to be all kinds of movement. I think now that week 1 and those vet salaries aren't guaranteed anymore, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
So I wrote down Gino's stats, Peter.
Peter's not here with us tonight.
I know, but I'm just saying when he watches the show, I just want to let him know I'm keeping track.
Just look at those first half stats. Let's just look at
Yep.
It was terrible.
Mediocre,
it was terrible. It's so terrible that the Seahawks signed Jason Peters, 41-year-old Jason Peters today. Because our rookie tackles are just broken. I don't know. We'll see what happens. That is the way of the football world for sure. So, all right, everyone, we will be back again next Tuesday night. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We'll be back next Tuesday night again at 8:00 Eastern time every Tuesday, as we always are. You can always go check us out on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed, please do. So if you don't get a chance to watch it right away, you can go and find it. And then, of course, you can watch us on Twitter and you can watch us on Facebook too. So we appreciate you guys hanging out with us, and we'll see you next week.